Morning, everyone. Morning, everyone. This is the public hearing and public meeting of the Committee of the Whole regarding bills number 260199, 260200, 260201, 260202, 260203, 260204, 260205, 260206, 260208, 260209, and resolution number 260227. Ms. Lawyer, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Squilla, Councilmember Gautier, Councilmember Jones, Councilmember Young, Councilmember Driscoll, Councilmember Lozada, Councilmember Bass, Councilmember Phillips, Councilmember O'Neill, Councilmember Gilmer Richardson, Councilmember Thomas, Councilmember Harity, Councilmember Ahmad, Councilmember Landau, Councilmember Brooks, Councilmember O'Rourke, Council President Johnson.
Present. Thank you very much. A quorum of the committee is present, and this hearing is now officially called to order. Ms. Lawyer, will you please read the title of the bills and resolution?
Bill number 260199, an ordinance adopting the operating budget for fiscal year 2027. Bill number 260200, an ordinance to adopt a fiscal year 2027 capital budget. Bill number 260201, an ordinance to adopt a capital program for the 6 fiscal years 2027 through 2032 inclusive. Bill number 260202, an ordinance amending Chapter 19-2400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Hotel Room Rental Tax by providing for an additional excise tax on hotel room rentals, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260203, an ordinance amending Subcode A, the Philadelphia Administrative Code of Title IV of the Philadelphia Code, the Building, Construction, and Occupancy Code, by adding and revising Zoning Board of Adjustment fees and provisions regarding hearing scheduling, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260204, an ordinance amending Title III of the Philadelphia Code entitled Air Management Code to modify the amounts of license and permit fees under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260205, an ordinance amending Section 19-1806 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Authorization of Realty Use and Occupancy Tax to clarify the imposition of the tax on the use and occupancy of real estate with respect to cell towers, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260206, an ordinance amending Chapter 600 of the Philadelphia Code Asbestos by adding and revising provisions related to various fees, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260208, an ordinance amending Chapter 19-1800 of the Philadelphia Code entitled School Tax Authorization to add a new Section 19-1808 entitled Authorization of Rideshare Use Tax to authorize the Board of the School District of Philadelphia to levy a tax upon the use by a passenger of a transportation network company for a prearranged ride that originates in Philadelphia, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 260209, an ordinance amending Title 19 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Finances, Taxes, and Collections to add a new chapter 194800 entitled Retail Delivery Tax to establish a tax on orders for the delivery in Philadelphia of retail, consumer, and other tangible goods, all under certain terms and conditions. Resolution number 260227, providing for the approval by the Council of the City of Philadelphia of a revised 5-year financial plan for the City of Philadelphia covering fiscal years 2027 through 2031 and incorporating revisions with respect to fiscal year 2026, which is to be submitted by the Mayor to the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority pursuant to an intergovernmental cooperation agreement by and between the City and the Authority.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lawyer. Today we hold the public hearing of the Committee of the Whole to consider the bills read by the clerk that constitute proposed operating and capital spending measures for fiscal year 2027, a capital program, and a forward-looking capital plan for fiscal year 2027 through fiscal year 2032. Today we have scheduled testimony from the Department of Finance, Department of Revenue, the Sinking Fund, City Treasurer, and the Board of Pensions. Given the overlap in these department responsibilities, all departments will be available for questioning following the testimony from the city's finance director, Mr. Rob DeBoe. Ms. Lawhead, will you please call the first witness to testify from the administration?
Rob DeBoe, Finance Director.
Also want to acknowledge the presence of Councilmember Jeffrey J. Young and also Councilmember Nicholas O'Rourke. Good morning.
Good morning, Council President.
You can begin, sir.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Rob Dubo. I am joined at the table by First Deputy Kat Lamb and Deputy Director Elizabeth Hanley. We are here today to testify in support of the proposed $23 million budget for the Office of Director of Finance. We are joined by deputies throughout the office, and we also have written testimony from the Treasurer's Office, Board of Pensions, Sinking Fund Commission, and Revenue Department, and as you said, representatives from all those departments are here to answer questions. I'd also like to take a second to thank all the employees in all of those offices for everything they do during the course of the year, for all their dedication and hard work. And with that, we're ready to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob. One, I just want to acknowledge your hard work and your team's hard work regarding this budget process, as well as the last two budget processes that you and I have worked on with our team, and also the current position that you have put our city in terms of fiscal stability. Can you talk about what the future look like in terms of our strategy to create economic growth and increase our tax base from a financial standpoint? Also, your strategy to make sure we continue to have 100% pension obligation met, and what that looks like and what that means for our city as we move forward.
Sure. Let me take that part first. As you probably know, about 10 years ago, our pension fund was less than 50% funded. Through a series of reforms that required cooperation from multiple administrations, city council, our union partners, very importantly, the pension board, we both increase the amount that goes to the pension fund, increase contributions from members and from the city. So we changed the way we fund it to make sure that all of that funding was above the amount required by the state, the minimum municipal obligation. We also changed some benefit structures for non-uniformed employees so that they would have hybrid pension plans, so they'd have a defined benefit portion to make sure that there was a guaranteed benefit with a kind of 401k. And we changed the way we invested the pension fund in a way that reduced our fees by maybe to about a third, saving millions of dollars a year. So all of that meant that the growth in our liabilities slowed and our assets agreed. We went from a place where we had basically negative cash flow every year to positive cash flow. That has meant that our funding percent has increased. We're now more than 67% funded. And our actuary projects that by 2033, we'll be 100% funded, which means a few things. One, it shows that we're keeping our commitment to our retirees, because in the end, that's our job at the pension fund, to make sure that our retirees get their payments. It also means that the unfunded liability, which is kind of like the mortgage we've borrowed for past years when we weren't putting enough into the fund, that goes away. That will free up hundreds of millions of dollars that we can use for a variety of investments, and also to help make sure we have a fund balance.
Just go on a record, just give us the specifics of the contribution per year, and then once we make that 100% obligation will be met, how much money will be freed up that will allow us to do more work in our general fund?
Yeah, give me 1 second and I'll get you the general fund contribution. So the general fund contribution in FY27 is It's roughly $600 million. When we go and we've paid off our unfunded liability, it would be more like $100 million. So for our normal cost.
100 million, correct?
Yeah, and we'll get you the exact numbers, but that's the range.
And just give us an overview briefly on the other part of the question, was the first line of question that I asked regarding our plan to drop economic growth to increase our tax base. I know it's some of them are that we've worked on in the past, but just go on a record and be more specific in terms of how we grow the pie, so to speak.
Right. So there are a number of things that are in the plan. There's the workforce development, including our investment at CCME, to help people enter the workforce and have jobs. There's the economic mobility cabinet. There's the outreach we're doing on things like helping people pay off their student loans. There are the tax reductions, which we're hoping will make us more competitive. There are the specific grants that the Commerce Department gives to small businesses. So a whole array of things that we're doing to try to make sure we grow the
As a city, do we take these different strategies and do a projected analysis of how much the returning investment will be in those particular categories? So I know we talked about workforce, I know we did the BERT and wage tax cuts, which also stimulates the environment as well when it comes to the economy. Do we do an analysis overall and say these 5 areas are our strategies for economic growth and development, and this is how much projected that we think we will make over a period of time?
We can get you something on that, and we'll get you that. We'll work with Commerce to provide that. And
then before I turn over to my members, another area I'm very, very interested in is how we provide tax relief programs. I want to say I applaud the Department of Revenue for launching the 5-in-1 property tax relief application, because something I worked with you on way before I became City Council President was around long-time owners occupants program, a LOOP program. We have a variety of different programs that helps individuals stay inside their homes, and so I think we're going in the right direction with the 5-in-1 property tax relief application. How are we getting the word out? And what's the status of that particular new application? And then also, do we have an app where individuals can also go on an app and say, hey, I want to sign up for LOOP, homestead, deferred tax deferment program, et cetera? I'm going to ask the Revenue Commissioner to come up and answer those questions. And while she's coming up, I'll also say that one of the things that we have in this budget is additional money for outreach so that we can accelerate that. And how much is in the budget for outreach? I just want to also add that for the record.
Good morning, Council President and members of City Council. My name is Kathleen McColgan, Revenue Commissioner. Thank you for recognizing the work of the department in establishing the combined real estate property tax assistance application. We were very excited to launch that last year. I think first you asked about how we were getting the word out, and that's really in combination with the communication that we do for all of our assistance programs. So the Department of Revenue has a very robust outreach team, and we attend between 200 and 300 events each year in partnership with City Council and other elected officials. We have information about the combined property tax application on our website. We also have videos on YouTube that talk about the different programs that we have available to customers and regarding relief programs. I think you asked about the status of the application, and I can tell you that we have had over 7,000 applications completed on there. And the application walks applicants through questions to help them determine what they are entitled to. So it not only is a single application to ease the process for them, but it also makes it more clear for them to understand which programs they're entitled to and allows them to apply for all of them within that one application.
Thank you. And along that same line of questioning, I want to talk about the homestead exemption. And I know our city controller had did a report regarding individuals abusing that program. And so how do we course correct to actually address some of the abuses of the homestead program to actually make sure that, primarily in this case, we had a senior that we honored who was also a victim of fraud when it came to homestead exemption. So what are we doing to actually address that issue based on the report from the city controller?
Yeah, it is a priority for the Department of Revenue to ensure that everyone who's eligible is enrolled in programs, and at the same time that we have enforcement programs in place to ensure that those who are not eligible are removed. Through the use of improved data with our newer systems, we're able to identify those who are highly likely ineligible and reach out to them. So through our compliance team, we reach out, send notices to property owners, letting them know that we need them to provide documentation to support that they are eligible for that program. For example, we'll look at property owners where the data reflects that they may own more than one property and have homestead on more than one property, or that a property may be vacant. And through that, through that compliance effort, we have recovered, or we have billed, let me make sure I have this correct. Let me just pull up the stats real quick. We have billed over $5.8 million and removed homestead from over, I believe it was 5,000 properties, and confirmed that about 3,500 properties were eligible for the program. And we still have approximately 10,000 that are in process.
Okay, thank you very much. Our Governor Josh Shapiro recently enacted the Working Pennsylvania Tax Credit. And so, one, do we know how many additional Philadelphians are now eligible for the Pennsylvania Working Tax Credit Program? And also, how does the program complement or not complement Philadelphia's low-income tax credit benefit program?
Okay, I'll see if we can get that number for you on how many are eligible. And I also wanted to just say that the department has worked to raise awareness of that as well. We send out at the beginning of each calendar year a notice to all employers in the city of Philadelphia, letting them know that they need to provide with their W-2s information on EITC, on the income-based wage tax refund, as well as the new program from the state of Pennsylvania.
All right, thank you very much. Chair recognizes Majority Leader Catherine Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Council President, and thank you all so much for all of your work over the year. I know I went through my thank yous yesterday, but again, thank you to Rob and Sabrina, and to Jackie Dunn, Matthew Bowman, Shakina Clark, also Commissioner McColgan. Thank you for always answering the calls and the emails relative to our constituents, Rebecca Lopez-Chris, Christian Crespo, and we appreciate Belinda Gonzalez, who is very helpful to our Constituent Services Director, Beth, and provides special assistance. And to Kristen at the Water Revenue Bureau, and then of course the Pension Board, Fran Bielli. Gotta say, Ms. Carol Stukes-Baylor, thank you, Ms. Carol, Brian Coughlin, and all the members of the board for your hard work, and also Marissa Waxman and her team at PICA for their work with the city. So I had to get that out the way for today. And I'll try to do that every day. I'm starting with the thank you. I hope Angela is listening. I hope Angela hears that. So at any rate, I will start with the home bond. You brought this up yesterday, Rob, you brought this up, and I wanted to just get a couple questions in relative to if you are able to provide the actual interest rate and other terms of the home bond now that we've issued the first $200 million, and how does it compare to the projected costs when we authorize the bond and approve the budget in FY26? And as a result of the debt not being issued until March, what will the difference in debt service be for FY '26 compared to the original projection?
Got it. And our friends from the Treasurer's Office are coming up.
Great.
Good morning, Jackie Dunn, City Treasurer. I'm also joined by Matthew Bowman, the Deputy for Debt Management and Sinking Fund Executive Director. We priced the home bonds last week, and the total cost for that, again, the majority of the bonds were taxable with a small portion of tax exempt. Taxable bonds are generally higher cost than tax exempt bonds, but the blended total interest cost was 4.88%.
Okay.
We had very good reception from the market, and we had more demand from investors than we had bonds to sell, and so we were able to further reduce the cost to the city from the start of pricing to when we concluded by about $6.8 million over the 20 years. So that was also a great result of us being able to jump in and take advantage of the demand at that time. In terms of tracking interest rates over time and relative to the budget projections, we did come in below what we budgeted. We do budget debt service conservatively, for obvious reasons, but I'll ask my deputy to speak to the general comparison to what was budgeted.
Excellent.
Good morning. Matt Bowman, Deputy City Treasurer. So as Jackie said, we do budget slightly conservatively. Each year over the 5-year plan, actual debt service is about 1.6 to 1.7 million a year less than what was budgeted. And then because we delayed the borrowing to this spring, there's no debt service incurred in fiscal year 26.
Understood. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you for the information. I brought that up because of your comments during the hearing yesterday, Rob. But really quickly for revenue, I wanted to talk about a matter that's come to my attention that I think is exceedingly important relative to our ability to receive additional revenue as a city. And so as a part of the testimony, it mentions investments in technology and utilizing more data-driven efficiencies. But I will tell you, and I don't know that they'll be happy that I'm bringing this up, but I have heard from developers who have indicated that there are significant delays with OPA finalizing lot consolidation and subdivisions. And when there is a delay in OPA finalizing the lot consolidation and subdivisions, which I'm hearing can sometimes take years. So the city is only collecting the taxes on the vacant, unimproved lot rather than the subdivided lots and the improved lots. And so I'm wondering if the city is missing out on collecting the full taxes that are due for all of these years due to these delays. And is there a large difference in taxes that would be collected by the city if a vacant, unimproved lot was actually being taxed as if it was subdivided into the individual lots? So I'll give you an example. Let's say you had a 20-acre unimproved and vacant lot at a obviously lower assessed value than if the property was subdivided and improved into 150 individual home lots. And I'm asking because, I think developers and homeowners both, and I think I talked about this a few years ago, I think the last term, that folks have complained about the timeline to update the ownership records in the OPA system, which is leading to significant delays relative to the city's ability to even track zoning and or building permits or applications, them being able to obtain licensing. But at the end of the day, we're missing out on probably millions of dollars of taxes as a result of this process.
So OPA is actually scheduled for April 21st. So let us get back with them and make sure that by the time we come, we have a thorough answer for that question.
Right, but even from just a revenue perspective, because I will say that I feel revenue does a great job when there's a change of ownership. Even when you go to phila.gov/OPA, type in any address as an example. you will see one slide for home ownership on the first page. But if you scroll down and go to the taxes due, you then see the actual owner once you click on the revenue portion of that parcel. So I do think revenue is doing a great job at showcasing the ownership information once it's processed through the system. However, my concern is relative to the city missing out on millions of dollars of revenue, as an example, for all these new construction homes. I know even for the first time in Councilmember Jones's district, in my community, in my ward, we have a new development. I think it used to be Salvation Army, right, Jones? And they tore down all the old buildings, and it was a vacant parcel, and then they rebuilt a ton of new homes and townhomes, and also single homes. So what is the process to ensure that we are not missing out on revenue that the city should be collecting when you go from a vacant, unimproved lot to a number of additional parcels on one lot?
Thank you, Councilmember. I appreciate the question, and I can only speak to the revenue process, of course, but I can tell you that we work in very close partnership with OPA. We meet with them monthly to discuss any issues and improvements that we can make through interagency processes as well as systems. So when we receive a recertification within, I believe it's 2 business days, a notice goes out. To your concern about losing revenue, it's my understanding that we are not losing revenue. We can take a deeper look at that, but when the recertification comes over to us, it's backdated to the date of the first period that it should be assessed at.
Right, but as an example, for some of these lots, it's taking so long for them to go through the process. So yes, you all wouldn't necessarily miss out on income at the point that it reaches your desk. But because it hasn't gone through the other processes, internally throughout city government, we are missing out on the back end, and you can't go back to folks and say, oh, we didn't collect for 2 years, but hey, we're here now.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure
Meaning if it didn't exist, the home didn't exist, like it's a brand new construction.
yes, so we will bill based on the assessment values back to the date that the deed has been recorded.
Okay. All right, well, I'll definitely follow up with you all because I have several examples of this happening.
We'd be happy to look at them.
And I don't know that they're going to be happy that I even brought this up because it's probably a loophole that some of these folks are getting through. But I want to ensure that we are able to collect as much revenue as possible, particularly if it's new construction.
Yes.
Homes.
Yes.
Okay, being built on unimproved lots. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Councilmember Cindy Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning. How's everybody doing? So I wanted to just follow up on my colleague's line of questioning, Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson, but I wanted to hone in on revenue. Good to see you, and always thank you. You know, I have to say that I've worked with a few revenue commissioners, and it's really has been a pleasure in terms of the responsiveness and just getting back to folks. So I just wanted to say that.
I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure working with your office.
We'll start out with that.
Thank you.
But I did want to ask you about, you know, when we get a constituent who calls in, and we understand the revenues department is responsible primarily for collecting revenue. So we know that you take it very seriously. But when someone is not of means and is trying to negotiate penalty and interest, can you talk to us a little bit about the policies around those kinds of conversations, and what is the standard?
Okay. Yeah, we do have standards for our payment agreement terms, and we
Yes.
can certainly get that to you in writing. There's a couple different payment agreement terms. When somebody has a significant delinquency and they are working with the law department, they will waive penalty if the payment is made in full, the principal is paid in full, but typically interest has to be paid.
Okay. So, and also, can you talk a little bit about payment arrangements? Because I know that we've had this, in my opinion, a little bit of a wacky sort of system where if you break a payment arrangement or you don't pay on time, then we won't give you another payment arrangement. Or that used to be the policy.
We have, over the years, we've standardized our payment agreements to make sure that everybody's getting the same treatment. And I would say if a payment agreement is broken, I mean, if somebody breaks one agreement, we evaluate them on a case-by-case basis. Typically, if somebody is being denied another payment agreement, it's because they have gotten to the most serious stage of enforcement and broken multiple agreements.
So my question is, if someone breaks multiple agreements but is still trying to make a payment arrangement, shouldn't we collect that so that we get whatever they're going to be bringing in? Like, does it hurt us or cost us if we say, well, you broke, 4 agreements, we're not going to give you another one. But they've got, a deposit that they want to put down now to get back into a payment arrangement.
Based on, I would say the response is based on a case-by-case scenario. We try to be as flexible as we can because, yes, we do want to collect the revenue, but we do have to maintain a level of enforcement to ensure that there is compliance. So that's the balance that we walk.
Okay. Let me ask, what is our tax collection rate offhand?
For property tax, it is 94.9%.
How does that compare to like the last couple of years?
I'm sorry, let me just say, add to that's within the year that it's billed, that metric. It's 94.9 within the year that it's billed. And let me get some more information for you.
Sure. Or maybe you could just answer, I'm just trying to figure out, like, is that number going up? Is it going down? I would
Okay.
suspect.
I can get you the exact numbers.
Yeah.
It's absolutely in this binder. I just have to put my fingers on it. Thank you. But I can tell you that year over year for property tax, it has gone up from, I believe, 24 to 25. It was in the low 94% range and then went up to 94.9. Let me look at this for you. Okay, so for property tax for calendar year 2024, it was 94.2% that was collected, and the percent collected for all years in 2024 was 96.44. And to give you a comparison to calendar year 23, the 1-year collection rate for property tax was 94.09. And the percent collected for all years was 98.03.
Okay. Is there any, because of the state of the economy and, everything that's going on and the cost of everything is high, and, we know that some people who might fall in that little 4 or 5%, who are not up to speed, up to date, have we thought about doing anything, I can't think of the word right now, where we wipe out interest and penalty if you pay within a certain time period? I forget what it's called. Amnesty. Thank you, Councilman Jones.
So our position on amnesty is that it undermines our ability to collect over time. And we did an analysis from the last tax amnesty that the city did and actually determined that had we maintained our normal enforcement and collection processes, we would have collected more than we did in that actual amnesty.
Okay, that's interesting. So, so then the department feels, or the administration feels, that amnesty is not something that they intend to do anytime coming?
No, we don't endorse amnesty. We just think it hurts our compliance rate and as well as our collection rates for the city and the school district.
Okay. All right, I would argue otherwise. I know you've done your analysis and your data says one thing, but when you talk to the, there's always someone who's going to game the system. There's always somebody who's waiting for an amnesty program to come along to take advantage of that. But I think for some of those of lesser means who just really do want to be compliant, but just don't have the amount of funds that are required of them, it could be a great incentive to, try to get caught up, and especially knowing that we're doing all these other things to raise money. I still think it might be a good way to get some cash in the door right now, so.
We're happy to work with any taxpayer who may be struggling to pay any of their liabilities, and we do ask them to reach out to us as soon as possible so we can put a process in place for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. The chair also recognizes the presence of Councilman Mark Squilla. Before I call on the next member, I just have a brief question, Mr. DeBoe. How are we going after individuals who own properties that are behind on their taxes, like owners of land? They may live in New York, but they own thousands of properties here and they may be back. What's our strategy to go after those individuals to recoup those dollars that are owed to the city of Philadelphia?
Yes, we do. We are fortunate to have a legal team that's integrated in our department, and they act on collections, all collections, and they have a few different methods for doing that, and one of them is consolidated actions against multi-property owners. The details of the one thing that I do know is difficult with a non-resident is that to actually secure a judgment against a property outside of Philadelphia, if that individual owns a property with someone else, then law can't enforce upon that. So if the home outside is in the name of, the property owner and a spouse, they can't take the same action as if it was just that property owner. But within the legal, their legal ability, law enforces upon those as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councilman Dr. Anthony Phillips.
Thank you, Council President. I want to start with an issue, and thank you so much, Commissioner and Rob, for being here. I want to start with an issue that we're seeing more frequently in our district related to water billing. We have residents receiving large, backdated water bills covering multiple prior years, often due to what is described as accounting or processing issues. For many of these residents, especially seniors or those on fixed incomes, these bills are unexpected and it's simply unaffordable. What steps is the Department of Revenue taking in coordination with the Water Department to address billing errors and to ensure residents are not penalized for issues that may stem from system or administrative delays? And also, what protections are in place to prevent residents from facing enforcement actions such as liens or collections while these billing disputes are being reviewed?
Thank you for the question, Council Member. I'm not aware of billing issues related specifically to accounting. I am aware that there are circumstances where a reading may not be obtained from a meter. It could reflect zero usage or estimated usage. And we've improved our processes over the years to reflect that on the bill that goes out to the customer. There's actually a box with red language that says that your reading was estimated or zero usage, and asks them to contact the meter shop. And after 3 consecutive bills of zero or estimated usage, we send a separate paper notice to the owner to let them know that they need to contact the meter shop. And then we also have the shared responsibility policy, which I know Councilmember Gautier has introduced legislation to codify that, where we work with the customer to reduce the amount past 1 year. So 50% of the usage is waived, and we'll work, as always, to get them into a payment agreement.
What I'm saying is that oftentimes there's the meter, you may not pick up on the meter read until years later, right? Or months, whatever that may be, and there's a delay in the processing for the bill. And sometimes people get the bill and you're like, oh, it's still their bill, per se. How are you? And then in addition to that, there are water main breaks that happen which disrupt people's water service, and then our residents, residents have been telling me that they're not oftentimes given a credit back for the disruption to their water service. Is that something that we're working through as well?
So for the cases that you mentioned where there was no notice to the property owner of the meter reading, then reflecting either zero or estimated usage, I would like to look at that on an individual case-by-case basis. If you could share that property with me so that we can analyze it, I would appreciate that. Because, like I said, we've put these processes in place to improve our communication, but also we do work very closely with PWD to address issues like this, and have met with them recently and discussed, are in the process of discussing, in addition to what we're already doing, how we can reach property owners earlier and engage with them to get them to act to replace a meter.
Okay, and then the question about the water main break?
I'm sorry?
The water main break, so people receiving,
That, I would have to defer to PWD on talking
Got it.
about the water main breaks.
and then just real quickly, can you provide an update on OPAL and how this is actually improving timelines for businesses, particularly for permitting approvals, tax clearance, and overall process efficiency? This was something that you all say is supposed to be happening in this year's budget, but you also talked about it last year's budget. So I'm just trying to figure out what's the holdup with OPAL.
Hi there. Catherine Lamb, First Deputy for Finance. So I think you're talking about the Opal project, which is Opal. I like Opal
I got
too.
police, I got Opal. I got
Opal,
police
yep,
athletic
like the
Lee
gem.
Miley
It's
in
going to
my
be a
head.
gem. It is the project to replace our core financials and purchasing systems, so it's actually not replacing any of the revenue systems directly. So it won't impact anything dealing with revenue billing and noticing. What it will do is replace the core systems that we use to do our accounting, as well as to contract and pay our vendors.
So the question is, it was supposed to be done last year, and it's not done yet. What's the holdup?
Yep. So our original go-live date, or most recent go-live date, was July of this year. Recently, we've decided to extend the schedule for 12 months. As we are leading up to the go-live date, we didn't feel like we were ready. And the worst thing you can do is go live with a system that touches every department and not be ready.
Got you. All right, thank you. I just, can I get one more question? All right. So our office has identified multiple vacant properties in the district that by chance were still receiving tax abatements through nonprofit or religious status, despite not operating as active institutions for years. What proactive steps is the Department of Revenue taking, working with the Office of Property of Assessment and the Law Department, to identify and address situations where properties may be improperly receiving tax benefits?
Okay, I just want to make sure I caught your question. Your focus is on properties that are receiving tax benefits to which they're not entitled?
Yes.
Okay, so that is we have a tax benefit review unit within our compliance team that utilizes data to identify properties that are, that we reflect are high likelihood of being ineligible for the properties. And we send notice to them, we give them the opportunity to explain to us, why the data may reflect something that is inaccurate, and why they're entitled to the programs, but we have removed through that program over 5,500 properties that we've identified were not eligible, and we have confirmed about 3,500 of them and have about 10,000 still in the queue being processed.
So that's what I'm saying. How are you, we know there's a lot, and so how are you coming up with a time frame to get to all of them, like to complete the process? Is there because what happens is that I identified a property, but then it's been a nuisance in the neighborhood for years by that point, and then so now you want to get on it, but then it's like you could have, your team could have been on it a while ago. So how are you getting that list smaller?
Well, over I think the list is getting, there's significant work for us to still do, but I do think that the list is getting smaller because we have this program in place. And we we're giving the property owner due process and sending them a notice and giving them the opportunity to reach out to us. But over the years, the last few years, with our new tax system and improved integrated data and a data warehouse, we've been better able to identify those. So over time, I do anticipate that that number will go down.
Yeah, I just think there should be a timeline on that altogether, because it's not okay that this has been, you have piles of that. I understand what you're saying, that you want to give due process, they deserve due process, but there should be a situation where by July or by August, we're going to clear all these up. We're going to make sure that a letter is sent, no response, we're going to move forward, right? That's the due process. So I just don't think there's a clear system where you're trying to make sure that these numbers go down, which is, going to cause problems later. So, all right, thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Point of information, Councilman Kessler-Lizada.
I just want to ask a question based on what he just said, right? Because we were under the impression that once a property that has been tax delinquent hits a $10,000 tax delinquent mark, it was supposed to trigger something, and it was supposed to start a process. Does that not happen? Is that not real?
Delinquency collection processes,
Yeah.
yes, we do have tiered collection processes based on the delinquency, but this is council member was referring to properties that are receiving assistance programs that they may not be entitled to.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dr. Phillips.
Yeah.
Briefly, sir.
Briefly, yeah, so for folks who are listening, the point of the matter is that by basically you all not being able to get on top of these properties, there are vacant lots in the city of Philadelphia that exists, that no one can buy and reuse for great purpose, because you have all these lots that are just basically there. And so your delay is causing neighborhood issues. So that's what I'm saying. I feel like it needs to be a solid process that you can communicate on how you can,
Are you referring now to the sheriff's sale process for vacant properties?
Yeah, that part too, yes.
Okay. So, we are happy to have resumed sheriff sales, and it has, generated revenue in customers who have come into compliance before the actual sale, resulting in tens of millions of dollars in revenue. I believe we collected over $50 million since sheriff sales resumed. Our goal is to bring the property into compliance, and certainly not to sell an owner-occupied home. Our law department goes to great lengths to do outreach, to reach the owner, to try to bring them into compliance, and up until the day of a sale, we'll actually, if a property owner comes forward and proves that it's owner-occupied, we'll put them into an OPA agreement. For vacant properties, I think that if there's particular properties that you have concern about, we could certainly work with your office on that. But the strategy for sheriff's sale is to collect the revenue, so we work in priority of the highest dollar potential for collection.
Thank you very much. Before I call on the next member, Rob, I just want to add additional question regarding the ride-share tax. And so it's from my understanding, I know yesterday we talked about a portion will go toward helping school-related union employees, transpassers, or assistance with transportation, right? But also, I've just got additional information that there's also $3 million set aside for individuals who may have outstanding parking debt, like some type of agreement with PPA to help individuals, which wasn't discussed yesterday. So could you just give us an idea? Because it falls in the line of what Councilmember Bass talked about in terms of amnesty, right, and helping individuals. And so I was thinking, how can we address this issue with individuals who are back on parking tickets and so forth? It might just need a little help to get their lives together. And then from my understanding, once they asked the question, they said, well, part of this rideshare tax, there's $3 million put aside for helping individuals who may have debt regarding parking tickets, which is new information to me. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Yep. So there is a 3-year program funded through the tax, $3 million a year, under which PPA would go through an application process to make sure people were eligible on an income basis. If they were eligible, PPA would waive fines and penalties and would give them a grant to pay their parking tickets. It's really important because some of the people have lost access to their vehicles because of the unpaid tickets. So it would help them pay that off, have access to their car again, be able to drive to work, for example. And the other benefit for the district is that money that goes to the PPA eventually flows through to the district.
Got you. Okay. Yeah, that was great. Ask that question. What does that have to do with the schools? But however, PPA pays a portion of the revenue they bring in to the school district.
Yes. Once they get over
got you.
threshold, everything goes to the district.
So it becomes all circular.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Great information for us to have. Probably be good to let members know that this is an extra added benefit for their constituents in the event that this is supported by the body. And so don't be shy about how you are touting the benefits of said rideshare tax in the event that the body supports it. Because I had no idea. I was pushing for an amnesty program to support individuals who are back on their parking tickets, and I got a response and said, well, this is something that is already being proposed. So it's probably good information for us to know. All right. Thank you very much. Chair recognizes Councilmember Kendra Brooks.
Thank you, Council President. Last year, the administration came to council and said that we needed to end the small business BERT tax exemption for companies making under $100,000. We were told by the city solicitor
Excuse me, Member Brooks, if
Yes,
you don't mind.
you can't hear me?
No, because you're talking to the microphone with that nice town voice.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
We were told by the city solicitor that, that we had to do this to settle a lawsuit, and that there would be an imminent announcement about how the lawsuit was wrapped up. There was no announcement, and the administration did not follow up with council about the status of the lawsuit. I want to get on the record exactly what is the status of the lawsuit, and if there was a settlement, and can you detail to council what it was?
Yep. We're going to ask Francis Beckley to come and respond to that question.
Good morning. My name is Frances Beckley, and I'm Revenue Chief Counsel. We settled the first set of those lawsuits with 5 plaintiffs, and however, the same law firm immediately filed a new lawsuit, and that lawsuit is in progress. So I think I'd be delighted to brief anybody from City Council, either individually or as a group, on the progress of that, but it is not appropriate to discuss it publicly.
So is lawsuit still pending around?
There is another there's another identical lawsuit that is ongoing, and it is not appropriate to discuss ongoing litigation in public.
Okay,
But
we'll reach out.
we have attorney-client privilege with you. We're happy to brief you if you'd like that.
Okay, thank you. We'll reach out to get that. My next question is, how much money will businesses who make under $100,000 a year be paying this year after the city gave up, or whatever's happening with the court fight, to preserve this exemption?
So the total net increase was in the high 30 millions, but that includes all businesses. I don't know if you have a breakout for under 100,000. Because every business was able to take advantage. It wasn't just small businesses that took advantage of the 100,000 exemption. It was every business.
So I do have some numbers here on an example of a business that would earn $100,000 in gross receipts and have $60,000 in net income. And their total tax bill...
She was asking for the total. Do we have a total for businesses under 100,000?
Oh, I'm not sure.
All right, let us get back to you on that.
Sorry.
Okay, you're gonna get back to us in writing
Yes,
about,
yep.
okay.
Well, we haven't broken it that way.
All right, my next question, where are we? Every budget document that we have seen this year has noted economic uncertainty amid the ongoing federal turmoil. We heard yesterday directly from the administration about these challenges. At the same time, those documents continue to tout tax cuts as investments that the city is making. I'm having a hard time reconciling that we have committed tax cuts until FY 2039, but are right back here looking at new taxes on ride share and delivery services. Has there been any discussion about pausing the BERT tax cuts given the administration's desire for new income? Do we think the tax increases on ride share and delivery services are regressive taxes? And has there been any discussion about how to apply those taxes with a non-pass-through provision to Uber and rideshare?
So let me take a few questions there. One was, have we considered pausing the BERT reductions? We have not. We do think that that's an important investment that helps grow our economy. On whether we think that the ride share and delivery tax are regressive, the survey analysis we've shown, and we can get this to you, shows that for both, as income goes up, usage goes up. So we don't think that they're regressive. And then I missed, there's one other question.
About a non-pass-through provision, have we had discussions about how to apply the taxes on Uber and rideshare as a non-pass-through provision, meaning that the cost goes to Uber and Lyft as opposed to the consumer?
I think that's another thing to discuss in a briefing, not in public session, about how that would work in the legislation.
So can you?
So we have talked about it, but I think that's something we would want to talk about. We would want to brief you on rather than talk about it in
Okay,
open
so
session.
that's another thing to add to a briefing?
Yes, yep.
Okay. So last year I introduced a part of the People's Tax Plan, a bill to expand wage tax refund. I was disappointed to learn that the Finance Department spoke to other council members about this bill without first contacting my office to express their concerns. How many people have received a refund for their city wage tax refund program, and how much does that represent?
I'll get the exact numbers for you, but I know that they have grown year over year. And for the last fiscal year, we were over 4,000 people who had received a refund. So in 2023, we had 1,687. In 2024, 3,933. And then in 2025, 5,744.
And is there any reason why our staff, like we weren't briefed on this prior and other council members had the opportunity to hear on this?
I'm sorry, I'd be happy to brief you. I'm not familiar with the conversations that you're referring to.
Okay. Could I ask one more in the record, Council President, or that's it?
Brief, please.
So one of the things I'm interested in hearing about is the eliminating of the Class 500 funds. I don't think this decision was made with much input from council. I want to understand why these funds were eliminated. I raise this because those class funds are often how council members are able to do direct funding to organizations. By taking this class funding out, we are eliminating council's influence on the budget and consolidating even more power to the administration. What is the reason for this class funds, why they were eliminated?
They've not been eliminated?
Thank you for the record, sir.
Yeah.
They ain't eliminated.
It's not eliminated?
They have not been eliminated.
Okay.
Anything else, Member Brooks?
I do, but you said brief, so I just.
Yes, real brief, yes.
Okay. So last year, the city set aside $91 million in federal funding reserve, which is less than 1 week of the total operating cost for the city. Where did last year's reserves go? I also want to better understand what this money could be spent on if we didn't use it last year.
Got it. So at the beginning amount in last year's budget was $95 million. We spent $4 million on food assistance when SNAP was I guess, didn't flow during the budget strikeout, the budget impasse. So that's an example of how it could be used. So there was 91 million remaining at the end of the year. Since that hadn't been used, it fell to our fund balance. We're asking in this year's budget to reestablish it.
Reestablish
At 91 million, yeah.
Okay. And we have a constituent call about a problem with communications between revenue, OPA, and the public. An example, the excess value of a constituent home increases, which raised the amount of property taxes owed. This higher amount of property tax was not communicated to the constituent or the mortgage company. So when the property taxes came due, the amount the constituent had to pay, which was much higher than the mortgage company had deducted. Oprah said that communicating this to the constituent and the mortgage was revenue's job. And revenue said that that was not the proper communication from Oprah to them. Can you let us know how this process should work and what kind of communication happens between the departments and the public around issues like these?
Okay, happy to respond to that. I think I just need to clarify what you said at the beginning of your question. Was it a recertification?
It was the value of a person's constituents, the housing value increased.
Okay,
And it raised the amount of property taxes owed, but it
Okay.
wasn't communicated to the constituent or the mortgage company about this increase. So a portion of it wasn't paid. So a later bill came to the constituent unbeknownst to the mortgage company or the constituent. Revenue and Oprah both pointed fingers at each other.
Okay.
But the house owner is still holding the bill. What is the communication process between
Okay.
those two departments so people aren't stuck holding a bill that they had no idea?
okay, I can speak to revenue's billing process, and also, again, just reiterate that we work very closely with OPA, so I'll be happy to look at that specific property and see what happened. But for our billing process for revenue is, we send out about 350,000 bills annually based on assessment values in early December, and we make those values viewable online at the same time on December 1st. Those who have a lender, we work very close with them, and we provide them with billing files, letting them know what the amount is that's due on the property. If the property has an appeal that's pending, and the property owner is entitled to pay the prior amount based on that year's appeal, we also can make that information available to the lender. So we work very closely with them, and I'm not sure for this specific property where there was a breakdown, but I'd be happy to look at it and make sure that, I do think that it's an outlier because of our billing processes.
So we should have someone in my office reach out to your office?
Yes,
to help
please.
Coordinate this specific constituent issue directly? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next order goes as follows. Councilmember Nina Mai, Councilmember Jamie Gaultier, then Councilmember Jim Harity.
Thank you, Council President. Good morning, everyone. It's still morning.
Morning.
Thank you for being here. The proposed budget included a new hotel tax increase to fund the 1,000 additional shelter beds. What is the projected annual revenue from this increase? And what sort of risk modeling was done if there's a reduction in hotel occupancy? And we just saw a couple of days ago that FIFA is canceling thousands of hotel rooms. So I just wondered how this is all playing out and what we actually are going to get from this.
Yep. So we are projecting that we will receive $20,000 annually in the 20 million. 20,000 wouldn't be that helpful.
I was like, oh my goodness, okay.
In the first year, it's not starting until August, so we're projecting 18 million in the first year from the tax.
And so when we are faced with scenarios of, FIFA, organization like FIFA, who had booked a lot of rooms, canceling so many of them, and we don't know exactly why, the reporting didn't say, I wonder how that impacts your model.
So in this case, since we're not starting the tax until after those events, it shouldn't affect our projections.
So
at
I
all.
meant not for the.
Yeah, so we're-
In cases like that, because it's not a given, right? We can have some kind of calamity and there goes people coming to our city.
Right, and with any tax, we'll have years where it generates more or it generates less, and then over time, it kind of typically averages out.
So I see, we're finding creative ways to increase our budget, but what is the growth projection that actually shows us new revenue coming? Could you please speak to sources of new revenue instead of us taxing our way out of this?
Right, so for each of our taxes, we have projected growth rates. So for the wage tax, I think we're basically in the between 3% and 5% each year. For property tax, we're also around 3% a year. For the sales tax, we're in the 4 to 5% range. So each of our taxes assume that there will be continuing growth in the economy that will lead to increased revenues.
And the work that's being done in the workforce development, it was mentioned earlier, do we have a sense of a projection of all this investment we're making in those spaces, where that'll show up in increased revenue?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that the council president asked about in his first questions, and then we said we get together something that shows kind of what we project for each of our initiatives.
Yeah, because our business, I already got calls about your hotel tax and all of this, so I just want to be able to tell their constituents too, to say, what is our growth projection? How are we really driving new revenue instead of keep taxing everybody who are already participating in this economy? And so we would love to get those numbers. And then is there a sunset for this in any kind? Or is this a forever tax?
There is no sunset on it.
Because that means that we are going to start relying on this, and does that allow us to then wiggle out of new revenue or creating opportunities? I just feel Philadelphia doesn't project to the world, we are growing, we are exciting, come here, invest in us, but what we project is we're going to tax you to death.
So we segregated this revenue in the hotel tax can only be used for the homeless services, so it's not something that we'll use in other places.
So if homelessness goes down, then the need for it goes down, then do you exit out of that?
I think that's something we should revisit at that time.
All right, let's remember that. Because we're going to work for making sure nobody in Philadelphia is unhoused. So hopefully there'll be no need for this. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman Jamie Gauthier, then Councilmember Jim Harity.
Thank you, Council President. Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
Thank you for the work you do every day. And I want to echo my colleague's sentiment that I also really enjoy working with you, Commissioner McColgan.
Thank you, I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure.
Last November, based on direct feedback from my constituent services team, from many calls from our constituents, I introduced a legislative package that strengthens water equity by expanding eligibility for TAP, protecting residents from extremely expensive water bills caused by long-term meter failures, and calling on the administration to explore ways to give rental tenants more control over their water bills. Water rates are rising. Effective September 1st, 2025, PWD increased typical residential bills by 9.4% to about $89.42 per month. In 2026, another 5.5% increase is scheduled, raising typical bills further to $94.31 a month. At the same time, we can't forget that nearly half of renters are cost-burdened, meaning that they make the impossible choice every month between paying their rent, affording their utility bills, and putting food on the table. Yet, unlike other utilities, the city doesn't allow tenants to put the water bills in their own names, meaning they are ineligible for assistance programs. I remember during the home debate hearing the administration often express a desire to not pit the have-nots against the have-a-littles. So my question for the administration today is, do you support expanding eligibility for the TAP program to help Philadelphians afford their water bills?
Thank you for the question. I also appreciate working with your office and appreciate the legislation and what it's attempting to do, because we do think that the TAP program is very important. It provides protections to many residents and tenants, and also relief in form of forgiveness. So we value that program, and we do our best to enroll as many people as we can. I also would like to just highlight that we have an ongoing auto-enrollment effort through data sharing, and we've increased those that are enrolled in TAP to just over 68,000, and also have an additional over 20,000 enrolled in the senior citizen discount. So while I appreciate the protections and the intention to expand them, I just want to highlight that our analysis reflects that expanding it per the legislation could cost $23.5 million. And we're also, of course, working to fund the services of PWD so that they can maintain operations and sustain clean drinking water for every resident. So that additional funding would be part of the next rate case and would further increase rates to those that are not enrolled or eligible for TAP. And then one other thing I just wanted to comment on is we do actually allow customers to become tenants. Tenants to become customers. And once they become a customer, they are entitled to the same programs as owner occupants.
I'd love to talk with your office more about that offline. Just a couple more questions. The mayor's budget address talks specifically about residents who are locked out of existing programs, people making just too much to qualify but not enough to stay afloat. Under the current TAP cutoff, a family of 4 earning $49,500 gets help. A family earning $51,000 gets nothing. My bill is about that gap. How does your opposition of the bill fit with what the mayor said she's trying to do about not pitting the have-nots against the have-a-littles?
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure that I communicate the impact of the bill so that all of the facts are on record. And also, also I wanted to just mention that outside of TAP, we do have other payment agreements. And we can get you the terms of those payment agreements that those who are ineligible for TAP are entitled to. And we also have long-term payment agreements for those who qualify as well. So I'm happy to go over all of that with you in your office.
Thank you. I have questions about your projection. So you stated that expanding TAP eligibility will cost $23 million. Our office has not been able to find a published methodology for those figures. So what income and uses assumptions does that estimate rely on? And is it modeled on the current TAP participant population or on the households between 150% and 200% of the federal poverty level who would be newly eligible? Additionally, the bill requires that discounts be based on each customer's actual income, which means every discount is individualized, not uniform. Does the $23 million estimate reflect that structure, or does it apply a single average discount to all newly eligible households? Because if it's the latter, the methodology does not match how the program actually works. So I'm trying to dig into your estimate, which you all are saying makes it infeasible to do this expansion, and I just want to understand what you're basing that on.
Yes, I'll be happy to get that information for you. I believe the fiscal note was published last Friday, but it wouldn't contain, I don't think, all of the details that you're requesting, so we would have to get back to you on that.
Okay. I also want to know what enrollment figures you're using for that $23 million estimate. We know that with the majority of city programs, we see, typically low enrollment rates. And so does your $23 million figure assume that everyone at the expanded income tier would enroll, or what usage are you actually basing that on?
Yeah, I think that that's an important question, and I know that you raised that in our recent conversation, and our team's working to get a response to you on that.
Okay. Lastly, Bill 251021 requires rate board authorization before any eligibility expansion takes effect. So that puts this expansion, or would put this expansion through exactly the regulatory process that the administration says it supports, and it means that nothing would change before September 2027 at the earliest. The FY27 plan confirms that PWD is already preparing for that rate proceeding, and so if we are including that language in the bill, can you explain your objection?
I would, regarding the rate proceeding, I would prefer that PWD respond to that. It's more appropriate for them to respond to.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to following up with your office and with PWD about all of the above. And I think it's really important before we object to giving more relief to our constituents that we know are struggling every single day, particularly under this federal administration, that we have really good and really accurate information before we say no to them.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hardy, Lozada, Driscoll.
Thank you, Council President. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Still morning. All right. Man, the revenue and tax end really goes slow. It's only 11:30. Got to make some light of the situation. I'm going to ask my questions for the sake of time, just to get them out there, and that way, we can work from there. Have a couple different lines and see how far I get through. Have you considered how the rideshare tax will impact those with disabilities who may rely on rideshare as a more accessible option than public transportation? Other cities have taxed wheelchair accessible rideshares at a lower rate than all other trips. Also, many healthcare workers or night shift workers rely on rideshare services during off hours when the public transit is not running. Additionally, many rely on rideshare late into the night when taking public transportation may pose safety risk. Have we considered limiting the time of day that we are levying this tax? I know there was a little discrepancy yesterday when I mentioned the numbers for Chicago, but I now have my research here, and I actually wasn't all wrong. That is the rate that they do after the peak time. So New York and Chicago both limit the tax to rides taken between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. Just trying to think out of the box here on trying to get, I understand you guys are saying this is what we have to do, but I'd also like to make sure that we're looking into everything and trying to give breaks to the people that really do need breaks, like our disabled population.
No, so we'll look into each of those issues and are happy to work with you on them. We'll say that to the extent we do things like limit the time, it will reduce the amount of revenue we're collecting, so we have to just be mindful of that.
Yeah, I mean, but if you look at the times they're saying, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., that's pretty much after that time, it's not going to be as much money anyway.
No, understood.
But I get this is about money, so, that's how we do it. All right, you'll get back to me with
Yes,
those,
yep.
and I've got some questions now about the pension and retirement. Can you talk about the $45 million payment being distributed to retirees through the Pension Adjustment Fund? On average, how much will each retiree receive, and can you explain how this was distributed amongst members of each plan? Is this for all our city?
Yeah, so it's for all retirees. It's based on calculation of how much our earnings exceed our assumed rate. The exact method of the distribution is determined by the pension board, and that determination hasn't been made yet. It'll probably be made at our next board meeting, and after that I can give you all the details that you just asked about.
You're at the board meeting, so yes. All
yes.
right, I'll take that for now. But you don't have like even a little estimate on how many, because from,
No.
like, there's numbers going around. I heard somewhere around 2,000 a retiree or something like that.
I don't want to give a number because we were given a few different options. We have to look
Okay.
through and make sure, you know, I want to make sure we get you an accurate number when we get there.
Okay,
And you
yeah.
won't have to wait long because the
You-
board
you-
meeting is tomorrow.
Yeah, you know me. It's all about the employees.
Yes.
And our retirees, some of these, especially the newer pension plan people, I don't know how they're doing it. So, all right, another discussion for another day, and you'll get back to me with the other information. Thank you, Council President. That was pretty quick.
Thank you very much. Council Member Ketty Lozada, then Council Member Driscoll, then Council Member Young.
Thank you, Council President. According to the proposed plan, there's roughly a $39 million decrease in contributions to other government agencies and nonprofits. This category often supports social services, community-based organizations, and specialized programs that have a direct impact in my district. Can you clarify which types of services, like behavioral health programs, substance use services, violence prevention, and workforce development, will be most impacted by this reduction? Additionally, what criteria were used to determine which contributions were reduced or eliminated? Was this based on program performance, duplication of funding, or broader fiscal constraints? And how will these reductions affect communities like those in my district that have historically experienced this investment?
Yep, so the contributions are listed in our detail, so you can go in, the contributions are listed in our detail, so you can go in and see which ones are continuing, which ones aren't. For the most part, the ones that are not continuing are ones where there was a one-time agreement and they were put in the budget based on a one-time agreement, so they don't continue after that year.
Can you give us a list of which ones were that one time? Can you submit that to the chair so that I can actually see?
Yeah, and
the
I actually
direct
think that
impact?
maybe the biggest single reduction is around 2026 events. So there was some money for some 2026 grants. What page is it? Okay. So to give you an example of one where funding, there was Philadelphia Freedom Schools, it was $150,000 in '26. That was a one-time thing, so didn't continue. There was funding for Calder, that was also one time, not continuing. So it's literally like dozens of them, but it's in here on pages 18 and 19 in our detail, and happy to have a conversation with you about them.
I'll look at that, thank you. The roughly $98 million year-over-year increase is driven primarily by pensions and healthcare, which are structural and reoccurring costs. What is the city's long-term strategy to manage this growth, and what is the extent, and to what extent can these costs be slowed or contained over the next 5 years?
Yep. So pension costs, we talked about a little, and the strategy we have for getting to 100% funded. When we get there, those costs will go down dramatically. For healthcare costs, when Office of Human Resources come, they are prepared to talk about it. We've talked to them, and they will give you more detail on what our strategy is for containing healthcare costs.
Okay. And then my final question, oftentimes folks ask departments like yours, how can we increase revenue, right?
Sorry, I missed the how can we increase?
How do we increase revenue for the city of Philadelphia? Are you ever asked, how do we save, right? What is, across departments, are departments ever asked, how do we save money so that we are not putting the pressure on the residents of our city?
Yeah, so during our budget process, every year we ask departments to give us cut scenarios. So this year we asked them for scenarios of 1% and 2%. We then examine all of their proposals, and we have taken a number of those proposals, and we kind of walked through those yesterday. I think that they are over $100 million over the life of our plan. So we did. Our first step was to see where we could save money.
Does anyone keep track of that? Like, so can we see what departments were asked to
Yes.
save, or how much they were asked to save and what they came back with?
Yes, we can do that.
Can you submit that to the chair? That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Lozada. So Member Young, Member Driscoll, and then Member Squilla, and then we will be officially in our second round before we break.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just have a couple questions for the Board of Pensions. I saw for the 15th consecutive year, the board has, voted to reduce, the projected return rate. Can you tell us, why do we keep doing this every year? When last year, I believe, was over 12% return.
So you reduce the assumed rate of return so that we can take less risky investments. So the lower we're assuming for our return, different investments we can make, and that reduces the risk for our members over the long term, that there'll be years where we have negative returns. And our assumed rate of return is still higher than most peer funds. When we started our reduction program, if you looked at a chart of where assumed rate of returns were, we basically were off the chart because we were so high. Now we're above the median, but kind of within the range of others, and we wanted to make sure that in terms of our risk profile that we were not out of range of other funds.
So it seems like you're trying to gain confidence with the, the pensioners or whatever, right, by having this lower rate projected. But do we need to have a 7.2% on the books to know that we're going to get to make safe investments? It seems like we have to shoot for a low number in order to make us take safe investments, when we can look at safe investments, understanding where we are, and still aim a little bit higher for those members of the pension fund.
Well, we do aim higher, and as you just described, last year we exceeded our assumed rate of return, and that's always our goal, is to exceed that assumed rate of return.
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal. Thank you. I'll leave that there. We see that's the goal, but I think that we have to be realistic. Like when we see for 15 years in a row we've lowered it, it has to be other ways to show confidence. If we are invested in safe assets or safe investments, then we shouldn't have to artificially set a floor or a cap or something on how we the way we decide to invest.
Yeah, and it's not artificial. It's based on consultation with our actuary, our investment staff, our outside advisors. So there's a real methodology that goes into all of the assumptions we use.
Thank you. We see for the you guys are asking for a $590,000 increase, and that says it's due to staff, due to fully funding your staff, essentially. But last year, we fully funded the staff, and you only have, you still have some open positions. So how is, if it was budgeted last year to fully fund the staff, why is this increase necessary?
Yeah. We're actually proposing to add staff in a couple of areas, which is what's behind the increase. We are adding staff to our payroll unit to help us process terminal leave payments more quickly.
So here it says in FY26 budgeted 73, filled as of November 61, proposed FY27 73.
Sorry, what page are you on?
This is fiscal year 27 budget testimony, page number 7.
What document are you in?
This is the Board of Pension and
Oh,
Retirement
sorry, we
fiscal
thought you
year.
were talking about
Yeah.
Office Director of Finance.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No, sorry, pension.
Sorry, call it Fran Bielli.
Francis Bielli, Board of Pensions. Councilman, that is not an increase of positions. It's the same positions we were budgeted for last year. There are just a 14% vacancy rate. We anticipate filling a number of those through increase of our pension counselors. So it's not an increase in the number of positions. It's an increase in the money to pay for those numbers of positions due to increase in wages, due to the collective bargaining agreements, and increase in the fringe benefit or health care costs.
Thank you. It also says that the board's Class 200 budget is large relative to its size because it relies heavily on outside professional support. And when I'm looking through the testimony and we're looking at the contracts for professional services, we see there's a projected amount of $25 million for FY27, but the data is not available for I guess the small local business enterprises and things like that. But you have a projected spend, you have historical data, so you've made some type of projection. Like, what did you rely on to make the projection of $25 million? And can you tell us and what that projection would be for the small local business enterprises?
So the amount that we pay out on contracts is mostly $0 contracts because they're based on investment money, and that's a percentage of investments. Our investment fees are well below the national average. Our investment ratio fees are 0.24%. National average is 0.73%. Since we've tweaked the fees that we pay for investments since FY 2016, we've saved over $140 million. The percentage of local is roughly 12%. The percentage of diverse managers' assets under management is over 50%. So the pension fund is efficient, well-run, and saves the taxpayers a large amount of money in the investment fees that we pay.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. I mentioned that because for FY 23, 24, 25, the amount to small and local businesses have decreased, but now our projection for FY 27 has increased. So I just want to see if that trend is still going to happen, right? If we're going to increase the total number of contracts, but decrease the number we're giving to small and local business enterprises.
Yeah, the small and local business is always something that we, of course, keep front and center. We have a couple of investment managers that are local, that are based in Philadelphia, but given the nature of the investment world, most of the companies are located in Wall Street, in New York, and other places in the country. But we are always open to local and small businesses and welcome proposals from any of those for our consideration.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Member Young. Member Driscoll, then Member Squilla, and then we'll be going into our...
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Bielli, for all your efforts on the pension fund. Finance Director DeBow and Commissioner McColgan, thank you too for your shared interest in working with us on these small business. As you know, small business is the backbone of our neighborhoods, and I think we're not there yet, but I know it's a process. And Commissioner, I'd like to walk through the eligibility framework for the bird exemption for the individual class to make sure we're aligned. Under this policy, eligibility is limited to natural persons of single-member LLCs wholly owned by that individual and treated as disregarded entities for tax purposes. The individual retains full control. There are no outside equity investors or profit-sharing arrangements. All commonly owned entities are aggregated and treated as single businesses. Taken together, this framework is designed to apply only to a single economic actor, not multi-party or equity capital-backed enterprises. Importantly, individuals would still remain fully subject to net profits tax So this proposal removes only the BERT layer, not taxation altogether. So in the interest of time, I have a dozen or so questions. Instead of engaging that today, if it's okay with you, Commissioner, if I could just submit them to you for further discussion?
I'd be happy to talk with your office, yeah. I'm happy to continue ongoing conversations. You understand that it's our position that it has unintended consequences because there are sole proprietors and single-member LLCs that earn significant income, so then you'd be providing relief to those individuals. For example, a consultant who earns $1 million a year would fall into that class. So we do have some concerns, but we're very happy to continue those conversations with you.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your cooperation so far, too, on that.
Of course.
Very much appreciated. And Commissioner, as you know, we've discussed this issue in previous budget cycles. What is the status of the refunding of the state sales tax to the city as the end user of material purchases?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do recall when you raised this issue, and I appreciate you bringing it to our attention because, of course, we want to pursue any potential revenue that's due to the city. I had conversations with the Chief Administrative Office and procurement, and it's my understanding that they're analyzing whether there is an issue with refunds that could be due to the city, and they can speak to the current status of that. I do understand, though, that it's a manual process that's taking them some time to go through. There's not a database with that information that they can just go to. So I just need to defer to them to provide you with the current status.
Okay, that's a little disappointing. We've been talking about this a couple different budget cycles, but I really think there's a lot of money there that we're laying on the table, a lot of money, not only to the administration, but a language in the school district. With all the construction and the capital budget that we talked about yesterday, if we're leaving this money on the table, it's a problem. So I appreciate your attention to that.
I understand, and like I said, it's my understanding that research is ongoing.
Thank you. That's all, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. And before we break, Councilmember Mark Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you. I want to follow up on Councilmember Driscoll's questions. As we look at the legislation that was introduced, and we see the challenges associated with the small businesses who no longer have the $100,000 exemption, is there a way to, obviously nothing will be perfect, but looking at this legislation, do you believe that it would be able to bypass or meet any challenge that would be brought from the uniformity clause?
Law could speak to that. My understanding is from conversations with law is that it's legally defensible, but there's the concerns that it still would be subject to challenge, of course, but the concerns that we have, like I said, are that there's unintended consequences and the revenue impact of providing relief to large businesses that would benefit from it.
Did you want to add, Francis?
Yeah, I would just confirm, this is Frances Beckley again, Revenue Chief Counsel. I would confirm that the bill as written does satisfy the uniformity clause. However, any attempt to limit it to small business will make it immediately invalid. And I wanted to I neglected this when I was up before. I wanted to thank this body for taking the very hard but necessary choice of repealing the exclusion. Particularly thank the Council President for his leadership on that. I know it was a very difficult decision, and it wasn't anything that the Law Department wanted to do either.
Yes, we're not blaming the law department for that being sued, but legally challenged, we get challenged and we have unintended consequences on just about everything that we do. It's hard to come up with something, right? And we're not, if you try to limit it too much, like you said, then you fall into the area of possibly being challenged on uniformity. So even though some other individuals or some corporations or somebody may be able to take advantage of it, we need to be able to understand the dollar amounts of what that is, and how we as a body would be able to then, I guess, determine whether to move forward or not. If there's a couple other people that take advantage of it that maybe weren't intended to, but the majority of the people have the $100,000 exemption, that's something maybe we would have to live with.
Well, you need to remember also that whatever the revenue projections are today, that people are not stupid. And if you show them that this form of corporate organization is going to be tax-free, amazingly, there are going to be twice as many people in that form of organization next year. So the revenue estimates you get today are a floor, not a ceiling.
Understanding, but we still know the challenges that are hitting our small businesses, and so I think we have to look at every possible angle of how we address that concern, because we could give you a list of additional questions. I think, in the sake of time, I know everybody's breaking for lunch.
And most of this discussion is more appropriate offline as legal advice.
Right.
But I would note for the record that when the small business exclusion was passed, the law was different than it is today. And if we pass something today, when the law has been made clear, we're much less likely to get a sympathetic hearing from a court.
All right, thank you. And I do want to thank Revenue and your whole team for always being responsive to our needs and requests. We really appreciate your efforts, and the Pension Board also. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you, Council
Appreciate
President.
that, thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, shout out, what's Sabrina at? You over there, Sabrina? Thank you also, Sabrina, for your hard work and dedication. We will stand in recess until 1 p.m.